I think 2 members are missing. Maybe they will connect. Just give me 15-20 minutes to explain the part one of a web server. So remaining we will discuss once again the web server. Again, there is 2-3 parts of web server because we have to combine with the application server discussion also there. So we'll see. Guys, are ready? Can we start? There?
Yes, sir.
Very good. So what is this web server? Web server handle web pages, right? Web server contains web pages. So whenever a user requests for a website, example, you can say, I'm a user and there is a web server. So this web server, contains web pages, right? Contains web pages. So from that user using web browser, put some URL. Based on this URL contains the protocol and web server and the page, right? So based on this, what is the server here mentioned here, either IP address or a name. The first system send request to the web server and what page you want to view, check it. So that page will tell to the web server. So web server understand your request. How it will understand? Based on the protocol. What protocol you are using? HTTP or HTTPS protocol. Okay. HTTP or HTTPS protocol. HTTP or HTTPS protocol. You are sending a request. Remember, you are sending a request to the web server. Web server understand your request. Web server understand your request, HTTP request. Okay. So based on your URL, it check the page is available or not. If page is available, okay, or not available, so it send web server give response. Either your ask for it HTTP request or HTTPS request. Based on that, it will provide response. Okay. So from client, you are sending HTTP or HTTPS request to the web server. Web server provide a HTTP or HTTPS response. So if your page, what are the page you required? If the page is available, that page will be sent to the client. The client will able to see the page. If the page is not available, it send the 404 page not found error message. So what is the web server will do? It handle the HTTP or HTTP requests from the different clients. So they were asking for different web pages. So it will handle this web HTTP traffic. So based on the client request, it will process the request, get the related based on the request, get the information, provide a response to the client. And yeah, we'll go to that points again. See, next one is like a actually what are the web servers? What are the air methods? We'll also see. Okay. A web server is a system that processes requests over the internet or intranet. Intranet. And deliver web pages. Web server delivers web pages or other content to the users. What is web server do? Simple point is web server deliver web pages. Okay. It is a essential component of web applications. And it is either a web server is as a simple web server as a part of web application, acting as an intermediary between user and the web application or a website. So web server is a server. So key functionalities. So important is request handling, content delivery. Two things, right? One is web server take request from the user. So web server receives HTTP or HTTPS request from a client, usually a web browser. Client means from web browser, whereas. So, and response with the appropriate content based on the client or user request. It respond with the related content, such as HTML pages, images, or files. Content delivery. It delivers static content like HTML, CSS, Java files, or act as a gateway for dynamic content by interacting with application server or a database. So this web server contains a web pages whenever user request with a HTTP or HTTPS. So it will, the page is available. So then it is, the page will be delivered. So it will respond to the client. They also act like a gateway, means there is application server, database server. So it act like a gateway to the your things, right? You are sending request. For example, I given one example, right? Make my trip example. Make my trip. So when I open this website, so this is the site I open. So request sent to the Make My Trip web server. Web server contains the page. For example, this is the web server page example. If in case, like it appears on this one. Okay. So next I given some data. So then I submit some data to get certain information. Okay. I put some data and click on search. So this entire thing is should be processed. What are the inputs that you are given, and that is based on that input, backend application will be run, process your information, and get with certain kind of outcome. That outcome, that output has to given to the web server deliver this page. Means you are interacting with the web server. Behind that one, behind the web server, there is an application and database server, either for a static content purpose or dynamic content like this purpose also. We are interacting with the web server only. Okay, so that is a security management. Of course, you're fetching web pages from a web server. Okay, so with HTTP, so no encryption involved. Whatever the data you're transmitting, data is not encrypted. But you want encryption, so then you can use via this HTTP data you're sending via SSL or TLS based encryptions. Server implement a security protocol like HTTPS, which is encrypted data. Okay, using or via SSL or TLS to encrypt the data transfer, ensure the security connection. They may also include authentication and access control features. And sometimes certain web servers also verifies your user identity for getting connected. For example, Tomcat. You want to connect with the Tomcat server, the basic web page, so you want to interact inside, you will compulsory need a authentication. Load balancing. Web servers distributed incoming traffic across multiple servers, ensure that reliability and performance. As I said, guys, load balancer. In a cluster, you put a multiple web servers. Multiple web servers, you could keep it in a cluster. So it balances the load between these web servers. So huge traffic is generated. For example, I showed one example, no? Make my trip, book my show. Think like book my show. In this week, any movies are released is there. Book my show. Full load is there. So one server cannot handle all the traffic. So we have to distribute the traffic with the other servers also. So you can do load balance. login. They log client interactions such as request time, error messages, and user agent information, which are useful for monitoring and debugging. So whenever user requests the web page, so immediately a log is created from which system this request is came and what kind of response you are giving. So like that kind of logs it will be created. Error messages, wrong URL information, process related information. That logs also will be created. Okay. So logging is also one of the part. So these are the main points of your web server. Components of web server. Hardware component like physical machine or a cloud. You can run the web servers. Okay. So softwares supporting to create a web server. For example, you have done a web server thing in a Microsoft server, right? In Microsoft, you install IIS, Internet Information Service. Role you install now. Web server role you are installed in the web server, in the Windows server. So Microsoft IIS. By installing and configuring, you created a web server. Server is a machine. IIS is a service, protocol, application, package, service. Apache HTTPD, NGINX, NGINX, CADI, Light HTTP, like this different web server softwares are there. By installing and configuring these roles or features or packages or applications, the system or server become a web server. Protocols. This web server also support this web related protocol support server support protocol. Mainly HTTP, HTTPS. Of course, integrated FTP support for uploading, downloading files to the web location. WebSocket connectivity, web-based connectivity purpose. WebSocket protocols. Oh, it's a 1 o'clock. One second. Okay, okay. Guys, understand this web server, HTTP request, HTTP response. Okay, understand that part? Okay. Types of web servers. So basically two website or web server. Website or a web server. Static website or a static web server. Dynamic website or a dynamic web server. Static web server. Already I told static web server. You're accessing like this. Like you click on something, you got a data, and you are looking at the data like this. Okay. So what is this? DSA. Data structures and data structures and algorithms. Okay. So different data structures. See, whatever it is, what I said, this is a static website. I have my own static website. After I said, now we'll see it complete understanding static, how to do that one, how it is look like, and dynamic also. So right now, first of all, understand this. Statics means it contains the web pages. This page is a URL. This is a URL, a request for this URL, this page. So if this page is available in the server, so I am getting the page. If this page is not available, what happens? For example, I am trying to ask for some page. So I send a request to the w3schools.com under Python. So there is a Python underscore something dot ESP. So our web server verifies this URL and check for the page inside the web content. The page is not available. The page is not available. So it will provide a kind of response. Okay. So for example, you see 404 page not found. It means what are the page I'm sending a request like URL request. This page I want to see. The page is not available. The server send a 404 page not found. Okay. If page is available, it display the page. Generally, static websites do not take, generally it won't take any kind of input or processing, it won't do it. It will only maintain the pages, web content. If user requests for a page, it will display that page. Delivers files as they are sorted on the desk, stored on the desk with no dynamic content. So mostly these static websites or static web servers, the page content is in the HTML, plain HTML websites. Dynamic web servers. Dynamic web server or dynamic website, it's a combine a web server with a application logic. Okay, to generate dynamic contents. Generally, our e-commerce sites fetching products data from database servers. Okay, dynamic website. So an example I told, that is, where is that? Yeah, make my trip dynamic site. So in a make my trip, I'm connecting an application called flights. And the flight application, so it's a flight is one application, hotels is another application, but whole application, different applications combined and running in the application server. So when I select flights application, I'm giving information, that information sent to the web server. But in a web server, not a direct page is not available. Okay, for this information, the related page is not available. So what it will do, it send that information to the application runs in the application server. That application take these inputs, rights related application. If this kind of input is given, so what is the process? So it will take that inputs and run the query, get the information from database, display the database on the, okay. So that is a dynamic website or dynamic web service. So it is having an application written in different programming like PHP, Ruby, Python, Java based applications are there. These it can be any application. So this application take the input from your user request, process it, and generate a output, deliver through web server to our client. This is a dynamic website. So different popular web servers, Apache, HTTPD, Nginx, Microsoft IIS, Lightspeed, CADI, and other web servers also there. Okay. So this is about your web server, guys. And also there is a how the web server works. HTTP methods, get method and post methods. So we have to discuss a lot of things. Get method and post method also, some differences in. request flow in a web server is also given. You have to read it. This is middleware processing, response creation. That much is not required, but see, application server we have to discuss, database servers. Okay. So we'll come back to that point, guys. There is a lot of things to discuss, including Java, JVM, JRE, JDBC. Right. So up to here we discuss. Okay. This is your web server. Any doubts, questions, understand, not understand?
Understood, sir.
Really? Okay. Take a lunch break, guys. Back at 2:30. So my lunch is